My number 1 is the Twilight Saga. Damn it. Not say that with a straight face.
You're watching So Awkward. This is Freddy Krueger saying hi.
Hey, welcome to So Awkward. It's me, Don.
I'm Jester.
It's Top 10 Tuesday.
Yep. We're doing top 10 books.
Submitted by giveaway winner.
May Thigpen.
Thanks, May.
Thanks, May.
Congratulations.
This was hard. I maybe cheated.
I cheated a lot. I tried to limit myself to one book per author, and I condensed each series into one entry.
Thank God, because that's what I did.
And I also cheated.
Okay.
Without further ado, so right from the start, I'm going to cheat, because my number 10 is a tie.
Okay.
I wanted to get both of these on, and they're tied for number 10. Old Man and the Sea by Ernest Hemingway, and Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton. I probably reread Jurassic Park more than any other book. It's just so much fun, and it's so well written, and it's just an easy read. And Old Man and the Sea, I'm a huge Ernest Hemingway fan. That Old Man and the Sea is my favorite of his novels. I majored in creative writing in college, and I used to really write a lot, and I still like to write. And what made me want to be a writer is the short stories of Ernest Hemingway.
My number 10 is The Hiding Place by Corrie ten Boom.
I don't know it.
Oh, have you heard of Corrie ten Boom?
Mm.
She was a concentration camp survivor, and it's her story about being in the concentration camp.
Oh.
It was incredibly difficult for me to read. Spoiler. Her father and sister die, and her father's death is probably the most emotional I have ever gotten over anything in a book. It was haunting to me.
Number 9, I cheated on this one.
Is this another tie?
This is an unfair attempt to put a whole bunch of books by one author into a series.
Oh.
The Kilgore Trout series by Kurt Vonnegut. There is no Kilgore Trout series, but he is a reoccurring character in many of Vonnegut's books, his best books. It's his... Kilgore Trout is kind of Vonnegut's alter ego that he puts in his books kind of to represent himself. It's a crazy, eccentric sci-fi writer. He's a great character. These are all great books. I love Kurt Vonnegut. I was going to just put Breakfast of Champions, because that's my favorite Vonnegut book, but that book is unreadable if you haven't read every other book that Kilgore Trout has appeared in. So if you don't read all of his books, they're kind of incomprehensible. But that's what if you have read his books, that's what makes them so great. What's your number 9?
Fahrenheit 451.
Great book.
Good book.
Yeah. Bradbury.
Mm-hmm. I have nothing to say.
Number 8, Catch-22 by Joseph Heller. Did you read that one? It was assigned to every freshman my freshman year of college. And it's big. And nobody wanted to read it. But I started reading it and I was like, this is the best book. And nobody believed me. I'm like, no, it's so funny. It's brilliant. It's scary. It's exciting. It's really funny.
I tried reading it and I thought it was awful.
It's difficult. It's a difficult book, especially to start with, because it's so dense, and it doesn't follow a linear narrative. Every chapter is in different chronological order, and sometimes just within each chapter time just jumps around, and it's insane. And the characters are so weird. Just the world view. It's like an episode of The Twilight Zone. It's so weird, but I think it's if you can put in the time, it's rewarding.
My number 8 is The Demonata by Darren Shan.
I read a couple of those.
You read a couple of those.
Yeah.
But there's like 10 of them. It's a series of books about demons. They're so much fun to read.
And I would describe them as young adults, but they're incredibly violent and
very violent.
gory. One of them was something like it started with the kid's whole family being like horrifically slaughtered by demons.
Slaughtered by a demon. Yeah, it was I can't remember the demon's name, but he was playing chess.
Oh yeah, the chess one. Yeah.
With the father, and I believe he loses, so he kills the family, and it's just the boy that's left.
Yeah, that was the first one.
That was the first one.
That was brilliant. My number 7 is Salem's Lot by Stephen King. I think Salem's Lot was like his second or third book. I'm a huge fan of his old stuff. I don't really like his new stuff. His old stuff is more classically horror. Salem's Lot is his kind of revision of Dracula, but transposing it to Maine. And it's just a classic vampire novel. It's really good. I think it's the best vampire novel ever. Sorry, wow. Darren Shan. What's his name?
Darren Shan. My number 7 is The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath.
Very famous, beloved novel, which I don't know anything about. I mean, it's one of those things I've heard the name of.
Yeah, I believe it's frequently compared to The Catcher in the Rye.
I've read that one. Not a huge fan. What's The Bell Jar about?
This girl.
She likes jars.
She likes jars. No, it's just a girl.
Number 6 is the Ender's Game series by Orson Scott Card. The second novel in the series, Speaker for the Dead, I think is the best. And then the third one is Xenocide, which is also really great. It's one of the greatest works of science fiction literature ever. I love the character. I love the setting. It's just really interesting, and the second novel is kind of like a detective story. It's really hard to explain, but it's really worth reading. However, Orson Scott Card is a horrific, homophobic, horrible person. Do you know about Orson Scott Card?
I don't.
He's the worst. Which is so weird because Ender, his character, is just so kind and loving and brilliant. He's like the complete opposite of the writer. And it's such a weird thing. It's hard for me to go back and read them knowing what I know about the author and just not having any respect for him as a human being. But as a series, it's brilliant. It is worth reading because just the themes and the character are so powerful. Long story short.
My number 6 is The Giver. I think I read in middle school. But this is the book that got me to read. So I thought it should be on my list. I wouldn't say it's an incredible book. It's just that...
You can say people love it.
11-year-old me that hated reading was forced to read this book, and I enjoyed it.
This is one of those books, I bet we're going to get the most comments about people saying they love this book. Number 6 is the Game of Thrones series by George R.R. Martin. I guess it's the Song of Ice and Fire is the name of the series, or something like that. I don't think I need to say too much about this. Everybody has either read the books or seen the show at this point, and they know that both are brilliant. For a while, when I started reading the books, before the show was even a rumor, it kind of ruined me for other books. Just because the world is so huge and so detailed, and the characters, that I would go to read a different book and be like, this doesn't have 1,000 characters. Like, this author's not even trying.
My number 5 is 1984 by George Orwell.
Ooh.
This was hard for me because part of me enjoys Animal Farm more than 1984.
See, I haven't read that one.
Okay.
but people love it. All animals are equal, but some are more equal than others. That one, yeah.
Yeah.
Certainly in 1984. I mean, that's... When was that written?
I don't know.
Whenever it was written, that's so ahead of its time.
Yeah.
So prescient and visionary. Because they didn't have YouTube back then.
No.
It's amazing. Like, we're living in 1984.
Right.
I mean, it's 2016, but...
I think my mother watched the movie, and she saw me reading the book, and she told me how much the rat scared her.
Oh, sure. Room something. What is it?
So I searched forever to find this movie, and I mean this was before Netflix. So I don't even know if I watched the right one, but she hasn't read the book. She just watched the movie. So I was really expecting to be terrified when I finally got to this part, and I wasn't. It's a little bit disappointed.
Number 4, Tarzan by Edgar Rice Burroughs. Great novel. I love the entire series, although the first novel is brilliant. The rest of the series is kind of pulpy, but they're really fun. I'm a huge fan of Edgar Rice Burroughs. I like all of his stuff, but Tarzan is the best. It's
Never read Tarzan.
It's great. It's a lot of fun. It's exciting. All you know about Tarzan is me Tarzan, you Jane.
That is all I know.
He does not do that in the book. In the book, he's incredibly eloquent and brilliant. He can speak English and French and other languages. He's a genius. He's royalty. The film versions are so iconic, and every film and TV version that comes out is just basically based on the old movies. Like, they're so far removed from the books, but the books are so much fun.
Are we gonna see the new Tarzan movie?
Yes.
Okay. My number 4 is the Millennium series. It's the Lisbeth Salander books.
I don't know.
The girl with the dragon tattoo.
Okay. How many are there?
Well, there are 3 by Stieg Larsson, but then there's a 4th one which I haven't read, written by someone else. The other one died.
Sure.
So I haven't read the 4th book. So I only know the first 3.
So they have a new writer?
I don't really know.
Because I know they do that. They have other people writing Tarzan books, or
Right.
different writers have done like James Bond novels, but I didn't know that. I guess those are is it Sweden.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess those are huge over there. I mean, those are
They're a
huge.
big deal.
I mean, because there's the Swedish movies and the American movies.
There's the Swedish movies and the American movie. They
Oh, is that one?
never finished the other 2.
I've never read any of the books, but I saw the American with the David Fincher film.
Mm-hmm.
I did not like it.
I loved it.
See, I did not like it.
I thought it was brilliant.
I thought it was a very well-made movie. I did not like the story or the characters, and I didn't know it was going to have a huge rape scene. I didn't know it was going to be that bleak and just horrific. Like, I thought it was, this detective movie. It's like, I hated every character. And I'm not criticizing your pick, I remember thinking, this probably lost a lot in translation. Or I bet the book is better, but I'm never going to read it. But I don't like David Fincher, the director. I think his movies are all just cold and bleak and just, actors giving performances like this. Do you know what I'm saying?
Sure. The book is absolutely better. The Swedish film is better.
With the lady from Prometheus.
Right.
A name, Rooney something.
Numi. Because the American one is Rooney Mara.
Naomi Campbell. I think it was Naomi Campbell.
The Swedish one is Numi something. Lisbeth is one of my favorite fictional characters. I think she's brilliant. And I love how dark the story is. I'm wondering why this wasn't actually my number one now.
Number 3 is another cheat. It's a tie. One of my all-time favorite writers is Robert Heinlein, science sci-fi writer. Grand master of sci-fi. The first grand master. My pick for his best novel is The Moon is a Harsh Mistress. It's brilliant. It's an incredible book. But I have it tied with Time Enough for Love because I think his best character is Lazarus Long. Do you remember me mentioning Lazarus Long? He was on my top 10 characters I want to see as Funko Pops.
Yeah. I do I remember that.
Lazarus Long is this
A while ago.
kind of immortal character, like literally, and Time Enough for Love is kind of just like his biography. It's like it's another just huge book. There he is. But it's so much fun, and he's like the original Han Solo, Mal Reynolds character, like just this anti-hero, but who flies, through the galaxy on crazy adventures. And The Moon is a Harsh Mistress is kind of like a political novel. It's about the people of the moon seceding from the government of the Earth. So it's this political novel about a revolution, a lunar revolution, where they try to become their own sovereign planet. And it's really interesting and really well done. Anyway, Robert Heinlein. His most popular and famous novel is probably Stranger in a Strange Land, which is also brilliant, but I'd prefer these other ones. Some of his novels have a little too much crazy sex. This one has some crazy sex. He was a crazy guy, Robert Heinlein. That's all I'll say. And he's just the his prose wise, his writing is just perfect. Like he can tell a story better than anybody. He's one of those writers, if you just read like the first line of any book, you won't be able to put it down.
My number 3 is Harry Potter.
The whole series.
The entire series.
Yeah.
But if I had to pick one, I think my favorite is Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince.
I don't think I saw that one.
Okay.
I've never read any of them, but I've seen a few of the movies. They're beloved. Quite possibly, other than the Bible, the most successful books ever written. They're up there. They're in the top 10. I mean, J.K. Rowling lives in a castle. Like other than like the Queen, I think she's like the second richest person in the United Kingdom.
Yeah.
And good for her. I mean, she deserves it. I've never read them, but people love them. I can't say anything about them.
That's fine.
And I won't.
I'm not going to say anything either because most people have read them.
Yeah. They're one of those things. You haven't read Harry, you have to. It's like, no, I don't. Number 2, Dune by Frank Herbert. Which you started to read because I told you it was one of my favorite books. I think I may have even told you it was my favorite book. Yeah, you. Which is fair. I think it's my favorite. It'd be my pick for the best sci-fi novel ever. It's just the ideas and just the world presented is so interesting. I love the characters. Since I first read it, probably 20 years ago, I've probably read it at least once a year. It's just one of those books that I keep going back to just because it's so much fun, and every time I read it, I get so much more out of it, good and bad. Like I notice flaws or things about the story that don't really make sense, but I also notice like little nuances that I didn't notice before. Just skip the sequels. The sequels are, almost without exception, terrible. And then his son, Brian Herbert, and Kevin Anderson are still writing even more sequels and prequels, which everybody hates. But I actually think they're better than the original sequels, which is maybe blasphemous to say. But Dune is great.
My number 2 is Cirque du Freak.
That rings a bell. I'll put in a bell sound effect for Mike.
I met Darren Shan.
I didn't know that.
At my high school.
Did I know that?
Maybe, I don't know.
Exciting. Did he sign this?
He did. At South High School. Talking about Cirque du Freak and signing my book.
To Sarah, 1 ticket, front row, to the grisly, gruesome, and groovy Cirque du Freak. Darren Shan. 5/10/04. That's very cool.
It is one of the coolest things that's ever happened to me. He was a neat guy. So, Cirque du Freak is about Darren Shan. The main character is Darren.
That's funny.
And he becomes a vampire's assistant.
My problem with Cirque du Freak, which I've never read, and I don't think I can read it, just because I saw the trailer for that movie.
Oh, did you see? You
I
didn't
never
even
saw-
see the movie.
no.
You
All I needed to see
you
was
just
the
saw
trailer.
That awful trailer.
With John C. Reilly, who is a wonderful actor, but
The movie.
no,
the
that
movie
that was like the worst trailer I've ever seen.
The movie is one of the worst things I have ever seen.
Do I have super spit now?
Yes, you have super spit. You'll be able to do all kinds of things.
Can I, like, turn into a bat and stuff?
No, that's bull.
My pick for number 1.
Number 1.
Drum roll, please. Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien. Need I say more?
I have read The Fellowship, and then I've read The Hobbit.
The Hobbit's also great, but Lord of the Rings is where it's at.
I preferred The Hobbit to The Fellowship.
The Hobbit is fun, but I like the Lord of the Rings is just a little darker, and there's just more. It feels the thing about the Lord of the Rings, which is its greatest strength, and what makes it kind of unreadable for some people, is that it's not really. It doesn't feel like a story. It feels like history. Like there are certain sections where it's like I'm reading a history book. I'm reading a history book of this war that happened in this other universe, which is amazing, but it's also incredibly dry in places. I mean, there's also other places where it feels more like a narrative, but then there's those sections that it's just like, but I love just all the detail. And all like just the little things where like he'll make a reference to something that happened 1,000 years ago that you don't know anything about, but you know Tolkien because they published all his notes and his his manuscripts for other books and his diaries, which have the guy was just obsessed with this universe that didn't exist. Like he knew a million years of history of this other planet, which didn't exist, and So the Lord of the Rings is just this one tiny piece of this universe that exists in this guy's head. And it's amazing. I'm not a huge fan of anything else that Tolkien's written. If you think the Lord of the Rings is dry, try reading the Silmarillion or the whatever of Húrin or the Unfinished Tales. They're unreadable. I'm also a big fan of the movies. But a whole other episode we could do with me complaining about the changes made visually, acting, action, costumes. They're amazing. But Peter Jackson and the writers did some weird stuff to the characters and the overall story. But they're good films. What's your number 1?
My number 1...
Wait. Drum roll.
Oh.
You didn't hear it?
I didn't. I did not hear it. My number 1 is The Wizard of Oz.
The series or the book?
The first book. I've purchased a collection of them, I think twice, and I've tried to get past the first book, and I have never succeeded. I prefer the movie to the book.
I feel like a lot of people have said that. It's one of those rare things where the movie is not necessarily better, but I think more respected and maybe better.
I would say it's better.
I mean, it's as good a movie as any movie has ever been good.
I grew up watching the movie, and I didn't read the book until I was in high school. Possibly even after high school. So I already had all the ideas from the movie. And it was... I preferred Dorothy as being a teenager as opposed to a child.
Is she a child in the
She's
book?
a child.
Is Dorothy in all the books? Or are the books just about Oz?
I think the books are about Oz.
Because Dorothy, spoiler, she goes home.
Dorothy goes home.
In fact, there's no place like home.
Right.
I have never seen The Wizard of Oz until you lent it to me a few years ago. It holds up nicely. Like visually, it's great. Like it looks great. Like it doesn't look cheesy.
So I guess really this is my number one because of how much I love the movie.
That's fair. It's a great
Okay.
movie. Good top 10.
Yeah.
If I were to make this list tomorrow, it might be completely different. Like this
Could
was
be.
really hard to do. A lot of fun, but hard to do. Thanks, May, for the great suggestion, and thanks everybody for watching. This is like 3 hours long.
It might be.
What are your all favorite books? What did we get wrong? What did we get right? What did we forget? What are your favorite books? Like this video, subscribe, give us more top 10 suggestions. Daisy and I love our Deadpool shirts. With a and a. That's a terrible impression. What's your favorite book?
Harold and the Purple Crayon.
I love Cujo. Rawr. Oh yeah. I don't know what that is. That looks familiar.
Oh, really?
Is there a pizza out there?
I hope so. I'm hungry.